It was a quiet evening in the small town of Medicine Hat, Alberta, the kind of town where everyone knows everyone. But on the 23rd of April 2006, a gruesome discovery shattered that calm. 3 members of the Richardson family were found brutally murdered in their suburban home. And the most shocking twist? The mastermind behind the killings was their 12-year-old daughter and her 23-year-old boyfriend. This is a story of betrayal, obsession, and unthinkable violence. Stay with us as we unravel the chilling events that led to one of Canada's most infamous crimes. To the outside world, the Richardson family seemed like the picture of normalcy. Deborah and Mark Richardson were hardworking parents raising 2 children, Jasmine, 12, and Jacob, who was just 8 years old at the time. They lived in a modest little house in a peaceful neighborhood. But behind the facade of a typical suburban family lay a troubled past. Deborah and Mark were recovering drug addicts who had met at a gym in Ontario and married shortly after. They had worked hard to rebuild their lives, eventually moving to Alberta and ending up in Medicine Hat. Despite their struggles, they were determined to provide a stable life for their 2 children. Jasmine was a bright-spirited girl who had just entered that awkward preteen phase. She was a straight-A student, made the honor roll at her Catholic school, and was actively involved in the fine arts program. But as she grew older, her interests began to shift. She became fascinated with the goth subculture, drawn to its dark aesthetics and rebellious ethos. Her parents, protective and strict, grew increasingly concerned as Jasmine's behavior deteriorated. She began breaking the school dress code, dressing in gothic clothing, lying about her age, and posting inappropriate photos on social media. She expressed disturbing interests in serial killers and the occult. She listed Jeffrey Dahmer and Marilyn Manson among her heroes. It was during this time that Jasmine met Jeremy Steinke, a 23-year-old man who would change her life and her family's fate forever. It was the summer of 2005. Jasmine and her friends began hanging out at the Medicine Hat Mall, where they encountered a group of older goth kids. Enraptured, Jasmine quickly immersed herself in their world. It was here, in January 2006, that she was introduced to Jeremy Steinke. Jeremy was unlike anyone Jasmine had ever met. He claimed to be a 300-year-old werewolf, wore dark eyeliner and face paint, and had a fascination with blood and violence. On his Vampire Freaks page, he wrote about liking to kill and described himself as a Lycan brethren. To Jasmine, he was mysterious, dangerous, and exciting. Their relationship quickly spiraled into an intense, toxic connection. They spent hours communicating online, exchanging messages on social media platforms like Nexopia. Their conversations grew darker, filled with fantasies of rebellion and escape. But as their relationship deepened, so did their resentment toward Jasmine's parents. Jasmine's parents discovered her relationship with Jeremy, who was almost twice her age, and forbade her from seeing him. They grounded her, confiscated her electronics, and tried to regain control over their daughter. But this only fueled her rebellion. She began sneaking out, lying about where she was, and spending every moment she could with Jeremy. Tensions at home escalated. Jasmine's animosity toward her younger brother, Jacob, also grew. According to Jeremy, he once witnessed Jasmine strangling Jacob, and she reportedly expressed embarrassment over having to bring him places. Jacob confided in a family friend that he was afraid of his older sister. The final breaking point came when Jasmine tried to convince her parents to let her attend a punk rock concert, only to sneak away and be caught making out with Jeremy in a back alley. After this incident, Jasmine began fantasizing about being rid of her parents once and for all. Through private messages on Nexopia, Jasmine and Jeremy began devising a plan to kill her family. Jasmine messaged Jeremy, "So, I have this plan. It begins with me killing them, and it ends with me living with you." Jeremy, who was unemployed and living in a trailer with his mother, embraced the idea. He even wrote on his public Nexopia page, "I, on the other hand, would rather do morbid stuff to others, like Jax's rents, for example, which I'm going to do this weekend." The couple's friends were aware of their plans. Jeremy even asked several of them to assist in the murders, but they refused. At 5 a.m. on the 22nd of April, 2006, Jeremy, intoxicated, entered the Richardson home through a basement window. The noise woke Deborah, who went down to investigate. Jeremy lunged at her, stabbing her repeatedly. Mark, hearing his wife's screams, charged into the basement armed with a screwdriver. He managed to jab Jeremy in the eye, but Jeremy overpowered him, stabbing him 24 times. Meanwhile, 8-year-old Jacob, who was in bed at the time, fought valiantly against his attacker, his own sister Jasmine. In a desperate attempt to defend himself, he even used his toy lightsaber, but it was no use. Jasmine, cold and detached, stabbed him multiple times and slit his throat. After the murders, Jeremy fled in his truck, leaving Jasmine to clean up. She rinsed the knife used to kill her brother, packed a bag of clothes and toiletries, and took her mother's purse. She used her mother's credit card to withdraw cash from an ATM and took a taxi to Jeremy's trailer. The next morning, Jasmine and Jeremy attended a house party where witnesses observed them laughing and making out, showing no remorse for what they had done. Jeremy even boasted about the murders, saying he gutted them like fish, while Jasmine added, "My little brother gargled." Later that day, they fled to Leader, Saskatchewan, with the help of their friend Casey Lancaster. They were arrested at a convenience store, bringing an end to their brief but horrifying crime spree. During the trial, Jasmine was portrayed as a girl torn between adolescence and darkness. Her lawyers argued she had been influenced by Jeremy's sinister fantasies. It was even suspected that the murders may have been inspired by Jeremy's favorite movie, Natural Born Killers, a story about a serial killer couple who kill her parents before going on a 3-state murder spree. But regardless of what inspired these murders, the evidence was damning. Jeremy, tried as an adult, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Jasmine, convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder, received the maximum sentence under Canadian law for a minor, 10 years, including time in custody and supervised rehabilitation. Today, Jasmine has completed her sentence and lives under a new identity. But the memory of what happened in that house remains. The betrayal, the loss, the unthinkable violence left scars on an entire community and a nation. The Richardson case is a grim reminder of how fragile the line between love and destruction can be. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about influence, accountability, and the capacity for violence at any age. Thank you for watching, and remember to hug your loved ones a little tighter tonight. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime content. And as always, stay safe and trust no one.